Hey everybody, Charles here. In this week's episode, we're highlighting some TED Talks about new ways men are being encouraged to think, talk, and act on their health. Dan and I hope that we can be part of normalizing conversations about men's health so that men feel okay talking about their health, just like most of us feel okay talking about sports or women or politics. Enjoy and send us your feedback at mindfullymasculine@gmail.com.
Good morning, Charles.
Good morning, Dan. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah. What's up?
I had a great birthday weekend, but kind of ended not exactly the way I wanted. The dog that I had come to kind of adopt as my own from my ex-girlfriend, unfortunately passed away yesterday while we were both away, and she was being watched by a friend. So, again, a wonderful evening with you guys, at dinner, and then, a nice day on Saturday, and went to the beach on Sunday, and, but getting that news was tough. I mean, she basically became my dog as well for, I guess almost 7 years. And yeah, it's, it was tough. It was tough. So, I didn't get a lot of sleep, but I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm sorry to hear that. That's, my last dog actually passed away while my ex-mother-in-law was watching her for me one of the days where I was working in St. Pete, and I think I was maybe 2 days I was working in St. Pete, so I left her with her for the day so that I could, drive to work and back. And she texted me like around noon and said, I don't think she's doing too good. You should probably come over here. By the time I got there, she had already died.
Yeah.
And man, losing a pet, it's brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the one that, I was closest to. I've had dogs my whole life, but usually they're either my parents' dogs or, a friend, that, I would, or an ex that, I didn't really date that long. So right. This one was fairly significant. So yeah. And, it was kind of like scrambling at the last minute in terms of, who's going to do what. And
sure.
It's a little tough, but
how's your ex holding up? Is she, being out of town, is she having a real hard time with not being there, or is she doing okay?
She's doing okay. She's doing okay. Fortunately, she's got a lot of family and friends that have been, she's been communicating with to kind of support her. And, she'll be coming back today and, try to, clean everything up. And, that's the toughest thing is you see the toys and you see, the bed and everything else like that. And, around the house, and that does that, it makes it tough at times, for sure. So, the good thing is, she was kind of suffering with, her heart issues. And so
sure.
it I feel like this, she kind of went in her sleep. So it was fairly quick. And hopefully she didn't suffer too long. So,
sure.
That's kind of, best case scenario, because this is not something that, can be fixed with dogs anyway. So,
yeah, it's, I'm real sorry to hear that. I be sure to, take good care of yourself and don't underestimate how much it might affect you. I made that mistake when my cat died, and, not my current cat. My current cat's fine, but like probably 6 or 7 years ago when my last cat passed away, I don't think I took a day off work, but I really got just super run down, because for me, being emotional just exhausts me. Any kind of being sad, crying, that just sucks the energy right out of me. And I tried to keep a normal schedule when I was feeling terrible, and it was rough.
Yeah. What I wrote in the 5-minute journal this morning, one of the things is to, is like an affirmation, and sure. I reminded myself that, a lot of people love me, and as well as, to kind of just take my time with stuff and do the best that I can. So, I kind of pulled that from, the 4 agreements book that we're gonna preview. We're gonna start getting into soon. But one of the agreements is, always do your best. And so,
Gotcha.
I was trying to put myself in the position of a friend to me, and if somebody else was going through this, what I would say. And, it lines up exactly with what you said, which, I woke up this morning and, felt like I was overwhelming amount of stuff I needed to do. And, I immediately try to say, okay, look, you got to get this done. You got to get that done. And it started to feel, I started to feel it. And at that point, I really slowed down and I said, hold on, do what you can, and do it slowly so that you're not going to make mistakes. You're not going to do things, the way you don't want them to be done.
Right. And
just try to show myself some love and say, all right, look, as a friend, what would you tell a friend in this situation? And and exactly that, don't try to keep a full schedule like you were trying to do. And, I'm just going to do whatever I can and be okay with it. Like, that's the thing, right?
Exactly.
Not getting it all done. That's one thing, but then beating yourself up because you didn't get it all done. That's a whole nother thing that, I know I have a tendency to do myself. So I'm going to try to do that.
Yeah, you really need to give yourself some slack sometimes because, we always expect ourselves to sort of operate at peak efficiency, and there's no good reason for that. It's not we wouldn't expect that of an employee or a friend. So why do we put that on ourselves? And
exactly. Yeah.
It's almost silly, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm very sorry about that. I did enjoy our, we did lunch and pickleball on Saturday.
That was great.
As I suspected, it was one lesson, and I'm all in. So I've got my paddles coming. I ordered a little kit on Amazon with 2 paddles and 4 balls and a little carrying case. I've been scoping out where I can play near my new location at this new campground down by Disney, and there are some pretty good places to play. So I'm excited about that.
Nice.
And I think I might get my lady to take the 101 course at Pictona with me again. So I'll take it a second time. And then I was looking today, their 102 course looks like a pretty nice offering. Have you looked at that at all on their website?
I have not, no.
It's $100, and you get 4 separate 1-hour classes that all build on each other.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, and I think they do them on Friday afternoons, which I can usually make Friday afternoon work, just knocking off my week a little bit early and headed over there and do it for 4 weeks in a row. And maybe try to get a little bit better. I look forward to the point where I can get some nice long rallies and volleys going with other competitors, where I'm good enough that I can play with other people who are good enough where we can, keep the ball in play for a nice long time and get a little bit of a workout out of it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm excited just to get to the point of where, I can keep score and not have to think for 10 minutes before I, before I announce it, before I serve,
Yeah. Double scoring is a little complicated. So, it does take a second to think about it before you're ready to announce what the score is to your teammate and your opponents, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then matching that with who's serving and what number they are, and then the rotation and where you're supposed to be standing. There's a lot more to pickleball than I thought. I really thought we'd show up, they'd hand us a couple of paddles, a ball, and go, hey, there's the court. Go ahead, figure it out, kind of thing. I really thought that because it's a free class, but
right.
I had no idea. It's a real sport. Like there's no, it's not like a table game,
No, for sure. It's a real sport with real strategy too, and trying to, get a handle on your opponent's strengths and weaknesses and try to use that to, hit to the older of the two people on the opposing team who doesn't move quite so well.
Yeah, the guy in work boots, the old guy in work boots that you were hitting it to. And,
and I did get a couple of whacks with that paddle where it's like if you've got a good stroke similar to a tennis stroke, you could definitely put some topspin on that ball where you could put it just over the net and have it crash straight down. And
that's fun.
I could definitely see putting in the time of hitting the balls to the point where I could get that skill where you're just smacking it as hard as you can and it just goes over the net and then boom, straight down.
One thing that I liked but didn't like was the fact that, you know, you get one serve and you don't get two. So
right.
It makes the game go faster, but also, you know, I'm used to playing tennis, so I'm
right.
Kind of used to
you go as hard as you can on the first one, and then you do a nice little slice on the second one to make sure that you keep it in play.
Yeah.
Where with pickleball, you got to put that first serve. Yeah, you can't be quite as aggressive like you can in tennis, where you go as hard as you possibly can on the first serve, and then a little safer with the second one.
Yeah, just holding the paddles from underneath rather than from the side, you know, is a little bit odd, you know, because I'm, you know, used to playing either ping pong or tennis with that, you know, and so that was, you know, a lot of differences. And the biggest thing that I learned, which I am totally surprised that I've never heard this before, which is the difference between court shoes and sneakers. That sneakers are designed to go forward and backward, which makes sense based on the treads, but I didn't think about that they're not meant to go from side to side. And she's like, you could, you know, snap an ankle by going side to side really quickly with regular sneakers. I've never heard that in my entire life. And
neither had I.
Quite a bit of athletic, you know, endeavors on courts and off courts, and never heard that before.
Yeah, I'm very tempted to obviously go shopping for some new gear immediately, including new shoes.
Right.
One of my favorite pairs of shoes I ever had when I guess it was probably late middle school, like 8th grade, was the do you remember the tennis player Michael Chang?
Sure. Yeah.
So he was he was sponsored by and had an endorsement deal with Reebok.
Okay.
And so the first set of tennis pumps that Reebok put out back in the early 90s were Michael Chang shoes.
Oh,
and,
wow.
I had a pair of those, and they were some of my favorite tennis shoes I ever had. And then a few years ago, probably, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago, I don't remember, I got a pair off eBay of sort of the retro ones that they re-released, and they were just as good. And wore them for a while, then donated them, you know, because I don't think I was in my camper yet, so it was at least 4.5, 5 years ago. But wore them for a while, and they started to look a little ratty, so I donated them, as I do. And it does, you know, if I'm going to be spending a lot of time at a tennis court-like surface, which, as far as I could tell, the pickleball court, as far as the material that they use, it's identical to a hard court tennis court, right? Yeah,
it looks that way for sure.
Yeah. So, I might need to get a pair of those, or you know what else was great was the some of the Nikes that they put out that Andre Agassi would wear. Those were some really comfortable court shoes too. So I may have to, you know, go for a little bit of fashion and functionality and get a pair of court shoes probably today. You know, once I decide I might want something, I just buy it. That's why one of the reasons I'm impossible to buy gifts for, and that girlfriends and wives have always complained about me, like, anytime you want something, you just buy it for yourself. There's never anything for me to buy you.
So you got a lot of boxes of cash, did you?
Pretty far into my marriage, my mother-in-law started just buying me Amazon gift cards.
There you go.
And I was so thankful. Like, people have this perception that gift cards are impersonal and, you know, they don't mean as much as a well thought out gift. But man, I love
a nice pair of knit socks.
Well, you know, I mean, I will occasionally buy some socks on Amazon, and if I had a gift card to use to buy exactly the socks I want, I would be very happy.
Sure, right. Yeah.
I just bought a pair of socks on Amazon yesterday for my Halloween costume.
What are you going as this year?
My girlfriend and I are going as Roy Kent and Keeley from Ted Lasso.
Oh, that's right. Yes, you told me that. Yeah.
Okay. Now I just need to find a place to go for Halloween. You know, because I'm not doing a pub crawl since neither of us drink, but
right. Yeah.
I'll find a party of some sort to either crash or engage in. I may maybe I'll renew my Mensa membership and go to the Nerds Halloween Ball.
Oh, very cool. There you go.
Central Florida Mensa is pretty active, and they always have holiday parties and stuff like that you can go to as part of your membership. So maybe I'll consider going to their party this year.
Oh, nice. They allow you to bring a guest, or does she have to actually sit there and take a test before they let her in?
You can bring a guest. I have no doubt that she would she would have no trouble qualifying. I'm quite sure. She's a former gifted kid, much like me. Underachievers now, and gifted in high school. That's how we like to do it.
Yes. And now you're just Amazon gifted.
Exactly.
Hey,
exactly. Now. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be talking about this week.
Yeah. These are a couple of videos we found relating to conversations about men's mental health in terms of trying to find different unique ways to approach the subject to get people to take their health a little bit more seriously, and some of it is related for men, and some of it is kind of universal for both for everybody. These were a couple of interesting TED Talks.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway from all three of them really was that most people will not regularly go to the doctor just because they've been told to. And even if they do go just because they've been told to, they're not really going to take anything that the doctor says about changing their lifestyle seriously. It's not enough to think, well, I probably should do ... There's got to be, you've got to have a compelling reason, either a goal or a relationship or something like that is prompting you to action, because just having somebody say, it's really a good idea, you should do fill in the blank. I mean, I'm a more disagreeable person than most as far as that trait goes on the big five. My disagreeableness is very high. Like I don't go along to get along, like, ever, with anyone in business or personal relationships. So just somebody telling me, you really should do this, my first thing is going to be why, and then they'll tell me, and I'll usually be like, well, that's not a good enough reason.
Yeah.
So right. It's got to be my own reason. I mean, you and I, we talked about that the other day, where I was talking about, getting a little bit more back into shape and a little more serious with my diet and exercise. And you were like, why are you going to do it? And I told you, and you're like, that's not good enough. Tell me why you're really going to do it.
Because I know it's just because I don't remember the answer you gave, but it was kind of just generic,
I think I said I'd like to look a little better in the mirror or something like that.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, I think we all would, I don't think there's anybody on the planet who doesn't like,
who wants to look worse.
Right. Right. It's like, well, I could fix this. I could do that. Whatever,
Yeah.
So that's not, I think that's just kind of underlying, and it's not a real why. And when you told me like that wasn't good enough, what's the real reason? I thought, okay, well, why is it that I want to look better in the mirror? What do I think that's going to deliver me? And then I thought about it and shared that answer with you, and you were like, okay, now we're on to something. That's something we can work with. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you need to just kind of keep digging and digging and digging.
Right.
Just keep asking the questions till you get to the root of.
Yeah. That's, I told you, I got really excited about reading Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I loved that book. It was so good. He got me completely in with that first book, and now I'm going to eventually go through everything that he's put out there. And right now I'm about to finish 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. And then after that, 4 Agreements, and then after that, I'll probably do the next Simon Sinek book. And he's so good with the philosophy of business, and really, so many business books. And I'm thinking mainly, a lot of the Six Sigma and Jack Welch stuff that was really popular in the 80s and 90s was really all about minimizing the component of business that is humans with emotions and feelings. And if you minimize that and stick to just the data and the processes, then you'll be able to optimize your business. But, most business academics now, and most people in the leadership space, have kind of acknowledged that was a mistake. That was a failure. The idea, we are feeling creatures that occasionally think, not thinking creatures that occasionally feel. And so when you try to deal with people in just a logical way, you've got a huge blind spot when it comes to people's feelings and their needs. And guys like Simon Sinek, Adam Grant, Brene Brown speak directly to that. You have to acknowledge the connection that people need from other people, and you have to make that a factor in the way that you run your organization, or you're going through with, one eye covered and trying to get the job done. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah. That's, and that's what brings us to one of the TED Talks that we were watching here. It's called Change Your Annual Checkup to a Check-In and Live Longer by Miles Spar. And he's a doctor who basically recognized that, going to the doctor, like you said, is just because you should. And then when you go there, you're not really seeing a whole lot of benefit. All you're doing is kind of getting criticized, right? So they'll check your, assuming, unless you're, perfectly healthy, but a lot of people who aren't or are going in for their physicals, they're getting their blood sugar and their cholesterol and blood pressure checked, and really it's, that's what they're, and then they say, all right, well, go fix it. Right. And that's it, again, it's kind of, we talked about in the previous podcast, is that doesn't do much for you. It doesn't tell you how to do it. It doesn't motivate you to make those changes, which probably are fairly difficult to make the changes that are going to impact those medical, blood values.
Right. And if you don't have that super strong why, if you can't tie taking care of your health to something you give a damn about, then you're either going to just refuse treatment and refuse to go to the doctor, or you're going to go when they say, hey, we should really get your blood pressure under control. We should do something about your cholesterol. We should, you could stand to lose 15 pounds. You'll just agree with them and then not change anything. And then so you'll keep going back over and over again, like that one patient he talked about, where she would come back in exactly the same condition, or maybe a little bit heavier every single year. And he would tell her the same thing, or she would be told the same thing. I don't know that he saw her for multiple years, but she kept coming back to the doctor, and she would hear the same thing every year and not actually change anything. And if you don't change your behavior and your body continues to get a year older every year, as most of ours do, things are going to just keep getting worse and worse. There's no scenario where you don't change anything, and as you get older, your body gets better and better. That's just not what happens. That's not how life works, and that's not how humans work.
No, that's great insight. I never thought about it like that, but you're totally right on that. Yeah. And that takes effort, and if you're going to put in effort, you need a why, right?
It either takes effort it takes effort of some kind, no matter what. I agree with you 100%, but sometimes the effort can be so easily, for me, as find an activity that works your body a little bit that you actually enjoy more than not doing it. And for me, that's going for long walks. I enjoy going for a long walk more than I enjoy not going for a long walk. So all I had to do was give it a try and figure out that I really enjoy it that much, especially if I pop in my AirPods and listen to a new podcast or a book I'm excited about or something like that. Mm-hmm. I would rather do that thing than not do that thing. And that gives me a health benefit that I basically feel like I'm getting for free.
Yeah, and a lot of that also are the hormonal effects you're feeling afterwards, and probably during as well.
Sure.
Those are all make you feel really good, and a lot of times you just need to, try to make a little bit of that, change or that, that effort and see how it goes,
right.
and just be willing to experiment. And just look at it as, hey, you know what? Maybe walking or hiking isn't for me. Maybe jogging is not for me. Oh, well, I really like bike riding though,
Yeah.
and you just keep going till you find something that you enjoy and that, it just works for you.
Yeah. Or pickleball. I mean, if you told me, hey, Charles, for your health, you should probably draw a 30-foot line on the ground and just run back and forth side to side for an hour, I would tell you to go screw yourself.
Sounds great.
But hand me a paddle and a ball and a buddy on the other side of the net. And now we're talking about a completely different thing, right?
Oh yeah. Do you remember doing that in gym class? The shuttle run? That sounds exactly like between those two lines.
I hated that.
I think we had a little wooden block we needed to put down. That's the only difference between that and what you just described.
Yeah. Yeah, it was miserable. I hated just about everything that I did in gym in high school. I enjoyed lifting weights, and I enjoyed open gym, playing basketball, and nothing else, pretty much.
Yeah.
But so that's the big takeaway I got from that particular video was this idea of, have somebody schedule a meeting once a year that directly supports something that they care about, and they'll show up for that meeting and they'll listen to you and do what you have to say when you do it in that context, the check in instead of the check up.
Right. And he was specifically talking about, his patient where he, asked her what her why is, and they kind of figured out it was so that she could coach her, I think it was her daughter's softball or soccer
daughter
team
or granddaughter's team, something. Yeah.
Right. Sports team. And she knew she was overweight and would be out of breath. And, that really didn't, she wanted to be able to coach it. And so that was her why. She figured that out. And basically when she came in for the checkup, that's what they focused on was, determining her why and getting her motivated about that. And they didn't check any of her blood or any of her vitals. And he said, like, some of the med school students that were, shadowing, his office said, what, you got to get her cholesterol. Right. You got to get her blood pressure. What are you doing? What? And he's like, no. We're focusing on, the why here. And he said, when she came back a few months later, she had lost a bunch of weight and all of her blood values had come down, without actually focusing on the blood values. So he really changed the focus of the visit. And I know, if you're going, if you're going to go to a doctor and he's going to, help you, figure things out and pump you up and get you motivated to do things, it's a little bit more of a likely scenario that I'm going to go and go for the appointment rather than, stay home if I know I'm just going to, versus going to a normal doctor's appointment where they're just going to check all my blood values and tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah. He didn't say specifically what he did to test her, but I assume, he probably threw some sensors on her and put her on a treadmill, and, that way she was able to see exactly what benefits she was getting and how things were improving, and he was able to see it too. Again, I don't know for sure, but that would make sense that he spent his time doing that instead of putting a cuff on her arm and, drawing some blood and stuff like that every time she came in. So I thought it was great. I like that message a lot. And I think it's, it's up to all of us to figure out, okay, yes, the part that I do buy in that I should do is probably be healthier than I am. Mm-hmm. But why do I want to do that? What's in it for me? And then when you figure out okay, what's in it for me is I get to live longer. I get to walk my daughter down the aisle. I get to fill in the blank. I get to take my dog for long walks or runs. And then it's like, okay, well, what are the components? What are the things that go into that? And then you can tell yourself a very honest and believable story of, okay, well, part of this, if I want to be able to continue doing this for a long time, I should probably go to the doctor once a year and share these desires with him or her and have him or her help me using their professional experience and expertise, set me up for success in getting this thing done that matters to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And, that kind of goes, plays nicely into one of our other videos, called How Barbershops Can Keep Men Healthy. Basically that's, about, a doctor who, grew up going to barbershops as a kid and realizing that, a lot of men were talking, fairly candidly in barbershops.
Right.
And, to the point of where he realized, okay, well, this is, they're willing to talk about the health and things that make them feel vulnerable. Right. And if you're able to, have that kind of dialogue in an environment, then, that might be a good opportunity then to actually bring in some professionals and do some, medical checkups, which is kind of what that video is all about. It's by Joseph Ravenel.
Yeah, I liked him a lot. Yeah. He was a great speaker, and I really liked what he had to say. And I don't know about you, but I got a little bit jealous of the barbershop experience that he was talking about, because I've never really participated in something like that where, just guys kind of, a few guys, fixtures, just sort of hanging out there all day long, reading the paper, watching the TV, talking about stuff. And then people, drop in and out to get their hair cut, and you have conversations. And I mean, I think for a lot of us today, the going to the barbershop, the hairstylist, whatever, it's just a very rushed thing. It's because we're trying to squeeze it in our super busy weeks. And, usually we plop down in the chair and play on our phone until they call us, and then, have a little bit of banter with the person cutting our hair, but then we get up and, get out of there as quickly as we can with our new haircut, and that's that. But the experience that he talked about really did feel like something special that I've never really experienced. And But he made the point at the end of the video, you know, what is your barbershop? Like we can all find something that is like that and kind of can get that job done, even if it's not exactly the barbershop experience that he was talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. You know, go to where you're comfortable and you're not, you know, on edge, so that when you do start talking about potentially uncomfortable topics like your health, you know, you aren't already at a you know, an elevated stress level. You know, you're already kind of relaxed. You feel like you're among peers, among people on your level. And, you know, having that support in that environment is, I think, really important in order to kind of get you to open up and potentially try new things that you haven't tried before. And when I'm talking about I'm talking about, you know, whether it's getting a specific kind of test or trying to change some habit that you already have. You know, all of these things can be scary and, you know, so to be as comfortable as possible is really important.
Yeah, I think, and it's nice to have a place where guys can get together with other guys and talk about things that certainly in mixed company, or, you know, when you're around your partner or potential partners, you would feel a little bit uneasy or stigmatized to bring up, you know, your high blood pressure or your colonoscopy that's coming up or something like that.
Can you imagine? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah. So what he was talking about is he decided to come in as a doctor and take the blood pressure of the guys sitting in the barbershop.
Right.
And because it was a little bit easier to go to them than trying to also get them to go to the doctors. So I think, Charles, what you're suggesting is for them to start conducting colonoscopies in barbershops.
Yeah. I mean, you know, look,
we could open up to sports bars, right? You know, I mean, that's where guys like to hang out too, right?
Yeah, I'm a fan of the one-stop shopping, Dan. I just renewed my Costco membership this morning. I like to go to one place and get a lot of things done. So absolutely,
yeah, you get your eyeglasses, you know, you get your blood pressure checked, you get a colonoscopy, you know, get your dozen eggs, you know, it's all good.
Yeah, next time I go to Sport Clips, I will ask one of our favorite stylists, like, hey, while I'm here, check under the hood for me.
Check under the hood. Can you take a look at this for me?
Yeah, so that I thought that was a great video, and I did like the sort of realization that a lot of guys have longer relationships and more trusting relationships with their barber than they do with their doctor, because especially in the age of, you know, employer provided health insurance and HMOs and stuff like that. I mean, your company switches insurance providers next year and you got a brand new doctor. And that's not the case with your, you know, $10 haircuts. You can keep going to that guy as long as you want to. Nobody's going to tell you, hey, bad news, you got to start going to a new doctor.
Yeah.
But, which, you know, sort of speaks to one of the benefits of direct primary care that we were talking about with Richard in the episode that came out this morning, where, you know, look, if you're taking upon yourself to put that $65 a month on your debit card or your credit card, you know, as long as that doctor still lives in your city and is willing to see you, then you can have that doctor as long as you want, and no insurance company is going to come in and tell you, hey, you know, all this person that you told all of your most private health details to, well, they're not in our network anymore, so here's this new person you have to talk to instead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and direct primary care takes that weird, awkward situation right off the table.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I did have the thought this morning when I was uploading the podcast. I was like, are people going to think that we're like in the direct primary care business? Because we're talking about it a lot, but
right.
But alas, no, we are not making a dime off of it. We just have, it's just something that's really worked for us, and we want to tell people about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're all about trying to be proactive with mental health and physical health for men. And this is one thing that we've definitely found to be helpful. And so that's what we're going to do with the podcast. And, you know, we're going to have some different themes, and yeah, it might seem like we're investing in some sort of DPC practice, but, that's not the case. We're just trying to share what we've been, you know, enjoying.
Yeah, no, I mean, if one wants to throw some money our way, then I'm absolutely open to that. But it just
Dr. Muzzy, you're listening?
Yeah, just happy to disclose that it hasn't happened yet, but we're still talking about it. So you want to go into the third video we we watched.
So, I mean, that's another way. I thought this was a really unique way for people to start, or for men actually, to start talking about their health. This was from Trevor Lauder, another TEDx talk, Why Crafting a Backyard Conversation is Important for Men's Health. And he basically, he acknowledged that a lot of conversations happen over a beer. And and interestingly enough, that does, similarly, it takes the edge off, right? It's a similar type of thing as being in a barbershop or, being, being in a sports bar, when, you're relaxed a little bit. And so now you're a little bit more willing to have some uncomfortable conversations if need be.
Yeah, I have definitely experienced that, good conversations over a beer, plenty of those. And, I mean, look, when you think about it, America was really, it only exists because some of the founding fathers were hanging out in a bar, enjoying a beer. They started talking about the fact that they were disgruntled with it was basically guys sitting around having a beer talking politics. And then, that rolled into eventually, a new country. And so it's pretty hard to overestimate what
it's a slippery slope.
That's true. Yeah. Down with the king. How many beers does it take to get to that point? But I mean, one thing he did point out was, enjoying a beer responsibly with your friends. A lot of good conversations can happen where, I have been in some situations where, a fellow's pathology will start to express itself over too many beers, and the conversation, does get a little more messy. A lot of hugs, a lot of guys telling each other how much they love each other.
I love you, man.
A lot of complaining about their dads.
There's a whole movie about that, right?
Yeah.
So when you were drinking, do you remember if you had any different type of emotional reaction to different types of alcohol? Like wine versus beer versus hard liquor?
No, I don't believe I did. Cause I mean, I generally,
drink all three at the same time.
Exactly. Right. I mean, I put them all in a fishbowl and then drink them all at once.
Delicious.
No, when I was drinking, I didn't spend a lot of time drunk, mostly because I would have two and then I would be like, okay, it's time to go to bed, everybody. See you later. So staying up and drinking lots and lots of alcohol was never really something I was very capable of doing. I've done it a few times, but literally I could probably count on one hand the number of times that I've been drunk and continued to drink. And usually I'm more of okay, I had my 2 or 3, now it's time to go sleepy night.
Yeah.
But no, I've never noticed, I've heard lots of anecdotal stories of, tequila makes me fight and stuff like that, but I've never heard any kind of actual scientific.
I think it's more like a chicken or the egg. It's like, I want to fight, give me some tequila. Or is it, I had tequila, right. I need to get in a fight. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that, your liver and your internal organs know that much about, and your brain really knows that much about what kind of alcohol you're drinking. And so, I'm open to it, but I haven't seen any evidence for it.
Yeah. You might be right. What I'm thinking of, for me, I notice that when I'm drinking wine, red wine specifically, I get a little bit more sentimental than other alcohols. Now, that being said, it might be the fact that when I was, younger, drinking red wine a lot would be during sentimental moments, like with my family, like visiting them in Germany and stuff like that, drinking the wine that they made. We had a lot of, sentimental moments, and maybe my brain is just kind of connecting the two, in that way. Or, maybe there is something in the grapes or that is making me a little bit more sentimental. But I do know that beer makes me like nauseous and sleepy a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Before I get full and a little bit nauseous before I get drunk off of beer, average beers, so, there's definitely, I think, a different effect, but I might be slightly allergic to some of the stuff in beer.
Did you notice that with seltzers or just with beers? I'm wondering if it might be the carbonation.
Just with beers.
Actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the hard seltzers?
Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah. So I think that's because there's vodka in those, right? So it's going to be a little bit different
I mean, some of them. I think some of them.
You're like a hard apple cider or something like that. You're thinking like a hard cider?
Like White Claws and Bud Light Seltzer. I think there's some sort of malt liquor in those. But
is there? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. I think it kind of depends.
Okay. All right. I've only had the ones that just have some vodka in there. So
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and that really doesn't make me tired or anything, and not really even that. Yeah, it doesn't really bring out any kind of sentimentalness in me. Sentimentality, if that's even a word.
Sentimentality is definitely a word. Sentimentalness, not so much.
I think both.
Yeah, it's been surprising. My last drink was after midnight on January 1st, and here we are.
Wow, almost a year already.
Yeah, Holy it's cow. Almost a year. And I don't miss it. There's occasional meals where I think, that would, like at the steak dinner we had the other night. I mean, I felt lucky. I think Kurt and I really had the only two meals that we were absolutely excited about and really, really super satisfied with. He had the salmon and I had the pork chop.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, my girlfriend's snapper was not. She wasn't really super excited about it, and I think Richard said his steak was not.
And mine was underwhelming. God,
I can't imagine. I would feel way worse. I mean, my pork chop was $36 or something. It was not very expensive. I mean, it was one of the cheaper items on the menu, and I loved it. But Richard had the porterhouse, and I can't imagine if I got the porterhouse and it wasn't up to par, I would have been very disappointed.
Yeah.
What'd you get? Did you get a bone-in fillet? What'd you get?
No, I just got a center cut fillet.
Okay.
But,
gotcha.
it was okay. It was good, but it was not great. I've had quite a few better pieces of fillet from different places.
Yeah, I was leaning over and telling Kurt when it comes to getting a fillet at a fine steakhouse like that, a lot of them are now serving USDA choice fillets instead of USDA prime. Often, if they don't say on the menu that it's USDA prime, you can kind of assume that it's choice.
Makes sense, because you're going to want to advertise if it's prime.
Right, exactly. And a lot of their other cuts, like their strips and their ribeyes and stuff, will be prime, but their fillets, I guess it's gotten more expensive to provide USDA prime fillets. And so, if you've already got the people in the door with your decor and your atmosphere, then just offer the choice. But, the fillet at Texas Roadhouse is USDA choice. And so, yes, they probably have a more skilled chef preparing it at a Charlie's or a Morton's than they do at a Texas Roadhouse. But the actual, meat rating is about the same. So it's hard for me to justify, why spend $55 on a choice tenderloin at a fancy steakhouse when for $26 I can get something very, very comparable at, So that's why when we go to Fishbones, which is about my favorite steak restaurant in Orlando right now, yes, their filet is choice, but it's bone in, and you can't get bone in everywhere. So I'm willing to do that because I think having the bone in, it does add a lot to it.
Absolutely.
So that's my current steak philosophy for all those who are invested in knowing that. If I'm in a restaurant that has prime other cuts, I'll usually get the other cut, or I'll try something like the pork chop because you can't get that at a lot of steak restaurants. And so I wanted to give it a shot, and I was very happy that I did. I also got the the Beer Blanc champagne sauce on top of it, and that was so good.
Awesome.
So I was real pleased with mine.
Good. That's fantastic. I'm happy to hear that.
I was considering today when you were texting us about the dinner. I was thinking, where should I do my dinner this year? So if I'm going to be local, I may try to get that restaurant. Remember when we did St. Augustine for my birthday last year? Mm-hmm. We did the Victoria's dance party, and then we went out and got some food afterward. I may try to. I couldn't get a reservation at the steakhouse at the Four Seasons because at that point they weren't completely open, so they were only offering reservations to guests at the property.
Okay,
but that's probably changed in the year that's gone by because of COVID and all that stuff. So I may be able to do a reservation there. So I may try to line that up here in the next couple days and see if I can get one, and then make a big reservation and then pare it down to the people that I actually want to be there.
Nice. That sounds fantastic. Hope I make the cut. Hope I make the choice cut.
You'll make the prime cut, Dan.
Oh, nice.
I will. I'll let you know if I work that out. It'll probably be a very similar crowd to what we saw on Friday night.
I had a good time. So
I did too.
I like the crowd.
The conversation was very good. The waiter didn't always seem that excited about the conversation.
No, he was.
Ariel said he was cracking up at my Robin Williams impression, which I find hard to believe because I think that is the hackiest impression that I do. That's saying a lot.
Yeah, but it's it's pretty accurate though. I have to admit. Yeah. You might need to. We're going to put we'll put all of Charles's impressions in the Patreon, in the Patreon membership. So you're going to need to pay $1 a month in order to hear these impressions. That is a steal. That is a steal.
Maybe I'll sprinkle in some of them on our private episodes. We'll see about that. But yeah, it was fun though. Even him not being super into what we were talking about or what we were doing kind of made it more fun because I'm a prick like that.
So go to mindfullymasculine.com/Patreon right now. Yes.
Right now, this very second.
Right. Yeah. Pause it and then come back. All right.
Exactly. Okay. So getting back to, that guy started a whole business basically about selling, I guess you buy it's a subscription model where you get 9 craft beers. 8 of them give you 1 a week for you and a buddy, and then a 9th one because you're paying for the membership. I liked how he said it that way.
Yeah.
And then it comes with, oh my gosh, there's a naked baby walking around my neighborhood right now. There's a kid who looks like he's probably about 2.5, and he's completely naked walking down the street.
Oh.
It's like I'm in Walmart.
Oh my gosh.
So that was very distracting. Okay, so he includes these coasters that have like questions you can ask your buddy about, just checking in to see how he's doing and how things are going. And because he goes over in detail, he's Australian. He talks about some of the data that's been available on really just how much of a killer loneliness is compared to alcoholism, cigarettes, obesity. Is like, nope, loneliness is the worst one. So I think one of the things you and I are going to do here soon, not the next series, but maybe the series after that, is talking a little bit more about finding relationships, and not just romantic relationships, but finding and fostering relationships with friends, with coworkers, with your romantic partner, and then deepening those relationships and making those connections more valuable. Because I mean, we got to do something about the loneliness, particularly the loneliness that men are experiencing in our society, and how it's putting so many of us in the ground way earlier than it should be.
Yeah. One of the stats that he threw out that was kind of surprising to me was, I don't remember. Basically, it was an exorbitant number of people said that if they were having an emergency, they would not contact a neighbor. And, and he had gone through some PTSD because he, I guess, witnessed his brother dying.
Yeah.
And he was dealing with it and didn't feel like he could talk to anybody. And it was kind of building up inside to the point of where, he was going to kill himself. And at some point before he did that, I think a neighbor just kind of randomly would just like knocked on popped his head over the fence and offered him a beer and
right.
just like, hey, how's it going? And it sounded like, that kind of saved his life, and they just had a conversation, and that's what inspired him to start the subscription beer model. To kind of foster these conversations. And, like we talked about it before, he acknowledges that, alcoholism with anxiety and depression is not really, or serving out, promoting alcohol with those types of conditions isn't exactly the best thing. So, he does advocate for responsible drinking, but he also acknowledges that, we can't deny the fact that, a lot of, very insightful, personal, vulnerable conversations do happen over beers.
Yeah. And, that's true. If somebody's already decided though that drinking is not for them, I have never been in a group with, especially with, you and Kurt and Richard and stuff. And and decided to have a club soda and then been disinvited from a conversation because I wasn't drinking alcohol. And right. I think there are some guys that have some perception that, oh, if all my friends are getting together for a craft beer and I decide not to have one, I'm not going to be as welcome. And I would say in most situations that is probably just in your head and not in the real world at all.
That's a great piece of advice and insight. But because I know when I was younger, I had some friends that would, drink quite a bit. And this is how, weird my brain was. We would go out, and because I really didn't like beer, and I think I'm slightly allergic to it, I would feel like kind of not part of the group because they'd get like a pitcher of beer for everybody, get them a bunch of cups and then pour everything. And then the guy who's buying the beer would be like, Lippman, what do you want? I'd be like, vodka club. and it's just like, I'm the only one standing there with, like a hard liquor. And I felt a little bit like I'm not quite part of the group, because I'm the odd man out. And so, but that was never the case,
right.
that was all in my head. My friends are fantastic and, they could care less, but it was again, it was anything that was different for me, being a diabetic or
right.
this, anything that would make me different. Try to avoid it.
No, if your social anxiety is looking for reasons that you're, an imposter and not a real member of the group, that voice inside your head will find things to tell you. Absolutely. Yeah. So if you're already conditioned to worry about that, the voice in your head will absolutely find reasons, whether it's, that you're not drinking alcohol, you're not drinking the same kind of alcohol, you're not wearing the same brand shoes, whatever it is, that voice in your head will find a reason to tell you don't really belong here. You're not like them.
Yeah.
And they all know it. And, it's interesting how our brain does that. One of the stats he cited, which I don't believe, and I don't think he was being dishonest. I don't think he was being inaccurate himself, but he said that 33% of women and 20% of men will experience anxiety. There's no way those numbers are real, because what we've learned from other books is there is no reason to believe or assume that men experience anxiety at lower rates than women. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of reasons to believe that men will not report anxiety at the same frequency that women will.
Correct. Yes. So, but those numbers in general seem low
even the women's number of 33% seems ridiculously low. I can't think of a single person I know that I've had any level of meaningful conversation with that hasn't said at some points I experience anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I think that would make me almost automatically cautious and suspicious of someone who says, I'm never anxious. And I used to be a guy who would say that. And I was not being honest with myself or the people I was speaking with.
Yeah.
I thought I was, but I wasn't.
Right. And that's where I think we need to get, we need to be careful, because we have to be specific with how to define anxiety, so I think everybody has some sort of stress, right? And then at different times, and then is that really anxiety if it's like really short lived, or is anxiety more of like a kind of a chronic thing? And if it is chronic, how long, I'm not a therapist, so I don't have, those answers. There might be a clinical definition of anxiety. I don't know what that is. I kind of look at it as like OCD versus being kind of like anal retentive, right? So I'm definitely anal retentive with certain things. And the way my dad helps me to understand it, that it's not OCD, is because it doesn't affect the other parts of my life. Like if OCD, it's affecting other parts of your life, whatever that habit is. And so I'm just wondering if anxiety is, a similar type of,
the very non-clinical, non-technical definition that I came up with while we were reading and going through No More Mr. Nice Guy was, if you are regularly distracted by thoughts of what if the future is not okay, then I would say that you're struggling with anxiety.
That's okay. Yeah.
And whether that's in the general sense, or what if the future of my career is not going to be okay? What if the future of my, partner relationship's not going to be okay? What if the future of my friendships are not going to be okay? If you're constantly, or not even constantly, but regularly, I would say, distracted by those thoughts and they're getting in the way of you enjoying life, I would say that you're experiencing anxiety. And I definitely would fit that definition.
And I'm wondering, I think, why has nobody told me this before? She may have touched on this, but I remember she may have touched on not just the future, but the past. So if you're also worried about what happened in the past and can't let that go,
I think
that could be, I don't remember if that was her or somewhere else.
I think the distinction she drew was, or maybe it wasn't her. Maybe it could have been something I read on Mental Health Instagram, which I follow a lot of accounts that are sort of in that space. Ruminating on the past is depression, and ruminating on the future is anxiety.
Got it. Yep. That sounds about right. That's what I was looking at. That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah. So that is a good metric. And again, I really do chalk those numbers up to people either not understanding the question or not. I mean, maybe they just don't use the same definition that I do. That's a possibility too. I'm not an expert.
Sure.
But based on the definition that I use, I don't know other humans that I have close relationships with that haven't struggled with anxiety. And so, I feel like 33% of women and 20% of men, by that definition, feels way, way, way low. But, yeah, look, I am open to the idea that sharing a beer with your friend is a way that you can deal with some stuff that's hard to deal with. I would say if you have a complicated relationship with alcohol or a relationship with alcohol that you're concerned about, the alcohol is not the part that makes it happen. It can be for people who have a boring and healthy relationship with alcohol, as I feel like I did. But if you even have just a twinge of doubt about your ability to enjoy alcohol without it negatively impacting your health, then go for this, drink with a friend, and leave the alcohol out of it. You know, coffee works just as well. I've had a lot of great coffee meetings with friends and business associates and dates, and coffee gets the job done just as well as a beer does, in my experience. And that's all I can really speak to.
Yeah, it's a great alternative.
Okay. Anything else to share on these 3 videos? I will put links to them in our show notes so everybody can watch those videos. Oh, I'll also share them on the homework link. So if folks want to watch them there, I know that you and I kind of settled on this topic fairly recently, but this episode won't come out until a week from today. And so I'll put these links will have been in our homework section well before that. And so I'll post about that on our social media.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir.
All right. Anything else, Dan?
Not today.
All right. I will end the recording and we can go about our private gossiping.
Sounds good. All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.